Discover the best-kept secrets from the leading entrepreneurs across the globe. Learn from the greatest minds in business with the MyCoda podcast. Here's your host, Sam Payne.
Hello and welcome to the MyCoda podcast. My name is Sam Payne and thank you for listening today, guys, wherever you are listening from. Today we have a huge treat for you. We have a returning guest on the show, Mr. Richard Moore. Now, Richard, good friend of mine, featured on the show on session 002 over 6 months ago now, and he brought so much value. Okay, guys, it's unreal. I still have people to this day complimenting me on that show and saying how much value they got from Richard's interview. And it's no surprise because Richard, for the guys who don't know him, is a specialist when it comes to sales. He's a business consultant. He's been in this game for many, many years now. And he does work with corporations, with large businesses, with small companies, startups, entrepreneurs like yourselves. And he is helping them primarily through his 8-Step Startup course, okay? Now, when I spoke to Richard, we're in contact quite a lot, Richard and I said, do you know what? People got so much from the last episode, it'd be a shame not to get you back on. And he agreed. And one thing that we didn't really touch on in the last interview, which I know a lot of people have problems with, is sales, online sales, how to sell your products online. It's all well and good knowing you want to set up an online business. It's all well and good knowing you've got a product that people may or may not love, which is generally the case because people say, I've got an idea, I've got a product I want to build, people are going to love it. But when it actually comes to selling it, that's when the issue starts, okay? Now, Richard, he has been selling, guys, this guy has sold multi 5-figure deals, 6-figure deals, and he's also sold low-ticket products as well. He's got experience across the board selling to so many different people in so many different niches and industries. So Richard, today we're going to talk about sales, online sales, and how you can really go out there and drive traffic to your products, but only drive traffic on how to convert the traffic that hits your pages so they then buy your products, okay? Because that is what we want at the end of the day. So guys, enjoy this one. I'm going to stop talking now. This is the MyCoda podcast with Richard Moore from the 8-Step Startup. What's up, everybody? Sam Payne here, and welcome to the MyCoda podcast. Now, today's guest is Richard Moore, and that name should sound familiar to the regular listeners of the show, as Richard was the second person to feature on the MyCoda podcast. So we are very happy to have Richard back today. Now, Richard is the founder of the 8-Step Startup, where he runs his online courses, his blog, and business consultancy. Richard, how are we doing today?
I'm great, Sam. Thanks very much for having me on here. It's a pleasure again.
Yeah, thank you for coming back on. Now, guys, we have covered Richard's story on how he become an entrepreneur, how he set up his businesses. So we're not really going to cover that today, but if you do want to check that story out, and I recommend you do, that is in the MyCoda podcast session 002. So that will be in the show notes below. And today we're going to talk on all things sales. So get your notepads and pens out. If you're struggling with sales, guys, this is the one for you. Now, Richard, before we start, what have you been up to since you was last on?
Yeah, it's been a few months actually. I've had quite a lot going on, quite a few projects. But one of the main things, I launched the Basics of Sales course. And any of your listeners who have already gone ahead and bought it, I want to thank you huge amounts. The uptake of it was it actually outperformed 8-Step Startup to begin with, but that has been my big thing, and so I'm sure we can talk more about that in the future. But yeah, it's been fantastic, and there's a couple of other projects as well, including a book and that more on that kind of in the future, I suppose. But yeah, it's been a heavy summer with lots of work to do. And it's just been fun to engage a lot of people and indeed enjoy your podcasts as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, firstly. It's nice to know someone's listening. And with the book as well, that sounds interesting too, Matt. What's that book going to be about?
Yeah, so that's going to be around startups. So it will kind of infuse my story a bit because for whatever reason, some people seem to be interested in hearing more about that. And in fact, in November, there's going to be a Huffington Post article focusing on that kind of thing. But the book is is bringing together a lot of the essentials of building a startup. It just comes from this idea, which is the same with the 8-Step Startup course, and it's the same with the Basics of Sales course, is that there's a lot of gurus and experts who aren't really giving things on the most basic level. And it means that information for a new starter isn't accessible. And if you look at a startup entrepreneur, Sam, what you end up with a lot of the time is someone with an amazing amount of ambition, amazing amount of motivation. They'll run through walls for their business, and they've always got a great idea, but sometimes they really need a helping hand with some essentials. So the book will be focusing on essentially how to make a startup in an intelligent way, and a case of kind of getting yourself to lift off as soon as is possible. So it's going to be quite a practical guide, but I want it to not have too much in the way of war stories, just more of a kind of a bit of a how-to. So a little bit of everything, but very focused on getting a startup going in a sensible, intelligent, but accessible way.
That sounds awesome, mate. I mean, that actually reminds me, because when I first got into this journey, if you can call it a journey, I did exactly that. I immersed myself in literally every piece of information I could get my hands on. And before I knew it, I'd spent 90 to 95% of my time just consuming information. And the hardest thing to do, because a lot of it contradicted itself as well, because you was listening to so many different experts. And the hardest thing to do is actually get clarity on any of it and point it in some direction.
Yeah, you're right. And what happens a lot of the time is when you are learning something, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate to this, you're learning something, and every 2 minutes you have to stop the train, get off, and go and learn about the thing you're trying to learn. So at that particular moment, well, what are they referring to now? Now I've got to go and learn about that so I can get back on the train and continue what I'm learning. So there's so many jump off points where you have to try and kind of get your head around the different themes, because a lot of the authors, not all of them, but a lot of the authors and, in inverted commas, gurus, they assume too much, I think. Yeah. And sometimes people want to kind of paint by numbers, treat me like I'm a 5-year-old approach to things. And not everyone, but some people do, and that makes life a little easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to that coming out, mate, and we'll definitely help you promote that as well. So for the listeners listening today, you will hear a lot about that when that's up and coming.
We've got pressure to finish it now.
Yeah, so yes, get on with it, Richard, please. But we are going to talk about sales today, Richard. So before we dive into the questions and get to the meat of the content, why should people listen to you when it comes to sales? What's your experience with sales? How are you helping people? And what's your past experience with companies and small businesses?
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good start-off point, and it's a question I'm really glad you asked, because it is something that everyone's going to be interested in. So the fact is, I originally started my first sale, if you like, when I was 13, when I actually decided with my friends that we would build a business selling computers. So I kind of started way back then, but that's not really sufficient credentials to go off. But about 15 years professionally, I've been selling in various guises. So at the turn of the century, I was selling internet marketing platforms. So I was literally saying, as I was mentioning in the last podcast, there's this thing called the internet. Why didn't you come and buy this? And I think what's interesting is that very quickly, once I kind of started generating commission, I spent time and money, rather than now, drinking and playing football at weekends. I was investing it in buying books, daring to even go to conferences on how to negotiate, and investing in myself. So in my early 20s, I found that was a really strong way of kind of step changing things. Then I also looked at things from the other perspective, in that I was training sales teams. So they wanted to try and scale me, the companies I worked with in London. And I found that in being successful in training new sales execs, you have to understand not just how to sell, but also what someone has to go through to be a sales exec. So I understand that psychology quite well. And for those of you who are concerned about just selling internet advertising, I've sold everything from physical products to online products to marketing and other kind of things in between as well. And some of the sales, I've sold products that are $5 through to £100,000 deals. And so closing that kind of thing it's interesting because a lot of the fundamentals are precisely the same as selling a very small entry-level product. Often the only difference is that you're sweating a bit more if it's a larger amount of commission, right? But other than that, I've just spent most of my working career either selling directly or teaching people how to do that, and helping them build multi-million-pound businesses means that I've got a strong amount of experience. Not more than anyone else necessarily. Some people have got more, but I've been intensely focused on this space for a long time. And nowadays it's consulting. So I'm drafted into companies to help develop their training programs, and specifically help maybe even sales directors to understand how to position themselves. So it's a world I enjoy, and it's a world you can really have fun in. It doesn't have to be a cringy, cheesy, horrible place if you work in sales.
Absolutely. And do you know what, like for myself personally, one of the struggles coming into running my own business was sales, because I was in the military before that. I had a printing apprenticeship before that, so I was never out to be a salesman. I was always just reacting to words of command, I suppose. And that's the story of a lot of entrepreneurs out there today, is they concentrate so much on their idea and their business, but I think they do lack in investing in the sales side of things. I mean, how important is sales to the success of a new business, especially a startup?
Yeah, you might argue I would give a biased answer given my background, but in fact, because I've also built my own startup businesses, and my main focus is actually guiding and consulting with people who are also building them, it's continuously apparent that sales is, and not close to being, but is by a long way the number one thing to be aware of. Because it's sad, right, that there are so many wonderful ideas out there that never make it because someone doesn't get behind the commercial side. And I can show as much as you like, but the reality is, if early on you begin the process of getting the product out there and generating revenue, that is literally the blood that runs through the veins of your business. And it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't, if you can't afford someone who can sell for you, you're going to have to do it yourself. But what it requires is a passion in your product, because that is typically what you really need to get to convey that it's something worth paying attention to. And ultimately, if you are enjoying what you are selling, then, or enjoying the product you're producing, then people will want to get involved, or at least check it out. And with sales, especially early sales, comes confidence. And with confidence becomes belief that, this business has got some legs, and it perpetuates everything. It is the reason why businesses will typically work at the beginning or not. Other reasons are to a little greater extent involved, but even things like, I didn't have the capital, that's not the reason, it's an excuse. And I've proven myself that before having necessary capital, I can still get a business off the ground by generating sales for it.
And the quote I loved from that was, sales is literally the blood that runs through your business's veins. I love that.
Absolutely. And some people don't like it. That's the thing, Sam. And some of the people I've coached, they've got these great ideas, and they all talk about the dream they've got of what it will be like when their business is killing it. But when it comes to the selling, they really clam up, but you just got to go through a bit of pain. It will hurt, it will be ugly, as I told someone recently, but it is the way that you will get progress. You've got to be clear on this. If this is the kind of person you are, that if you are trying to avoid sales because it's something you don't want to do, you're headed for a bit of danger, so you need to embrace it in some way or other.
And I mean, we will, listeners, we are going to get into these questions, but there's one point I want to add to this, because Richard touched on it, was if you're passionate about your product. Now, I've never been a natural salesman, but what I have been is excited and passionate about what I'm selling. And when I'm speaking to people face to face, I mean, emails, it's hard to get that excitement across in an email. But when I'm speaking to people on the phone or face to face, or I just spoke at a seminar on Saturday, and there was a room full of 20 guys, and they could feel my energy, they could feel my passion. And that was enough. I'd sold them because they could feel that I was passionate about it. And I've proven it worked. But it was the passion and excitement behind me as the product, I suppose, that helped sell that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And I never had sales or even business background I was fortunate enough to go to university, and I had degrees in history, so nothing to do with business at all. But it's precisely the same, Sam. The reason why I got sales from the word go was because it wasn't because I knew how to sell. It was because I was given a process, but moreover, I was passionate, if not about the product to start. I mean, the product originally was like, I was like, this is so not rock and roll. I was selling internet marketing, right, to people who worked in shipbuilding in Norway. These guys are like, what are you talking about? Why would I want to do this? We make winches. You imagine the guy with like grease on his hand answering the phone.
Yeah.
So, you know, that wasn't going to work. It was the passion was related to the outcome. The outcome was where I really drove the excitement from. It was like, this is going to make me something, and this is going to be exciting, and we can build a relationship. But more importantly, for me, as selfish time, I was like, I can make some money here. So that's where the passion came from, and delivering something with passion and being evangelical. You don't have to be, you don't have to be full of like hyperactive and bouncing off the walls. You can be intense, but it always comes from that. If you believe and have conviction, then the rest is really straightforward.
Well, let's delve into how the listeners can actually go out and do this now. So I think one of the problems people are facing is everything is going digital these days. Everything is going online, and even offline businesses have to sell online to a certain degree now. So in this online market, how does selling your product or service differ when approaching online sales as opposed to a face-to-face sale?
Yeah, that's a really good question, really very current. And in 2016, which is a point of recording, we are that you need to be aware that if you're not on this now, you better hurry up because it's already well in on its way. There are a couple of things here. Firstly, you need an awareness, I think, especially if you're working online, then social media is going to be one of your main vehicles. You need to have an awareness that attention span, right, is very tight. People have loads of attention span for things like Facebook, but it's very heavily divided amongst other things. You know, you're going to pop into someone's timeline, and that's it. So you've got to think about impact to begin with, okay? What's your why, as Simon Sinek said in his wonderful TED Talk, is very important because you have, if you can deliver something beyond, here's the nuts and bolts of what we do, and you're showing how you add value and solve a problem, that may stop someone to catch the eye. And it's those initial seconds that are crucial. But in addition to this awareness that you need to have impact and punch, no one's going to sit around waiting for you whilst you get a message across. The other thing is abundance, because again, just take Facebook as an example. Was it a couple of billion people using it at the moment? You absolutely have to be there regularly, and this is something I mentioned in the 8-Step Startup course. This idea of the CARE approach, so consistency, abundance, relevance, and engagement. So every day you're showing up multiple times. So this isn't badgering people. This is just showing that you're around and you have a voice that's louder than others. It's just, there's a lot of people shouting out there, so you've got to be there. And it's wrong in 2016 to think you'll win by having a tweet 3 times a week or a Facebook post once a week. It's not going to be enough. It needs to be going beyond that. So I think social media is your real start point. But to answer your question directly, you need to have an awareness of the attention span. And one way of grabbing people, okay, is to have something exciting in terms of your initial message, but also the E of that word CARE is engagement. And this is something I learned early on, Sam, when I moved things online. The moment someone dares give you any attention, even a like, right? You contact them, you thank them for it, you engage with them, and that's how you start making it a point of person-to-person contact. And that's what's different. Most people don't do it because they're lazy and they think it's too much work. And you know what? It's tiring, right? You're up at 2 a.m. There are 35 people who have liked your stuff. Yes, go contact them all and say thank you, because you get response then. And that's what life needs to be like for someone who's going digital, I feel. A lot more engagement with the people directly.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I suppose if you brought that back to if someone approached you and you was in your shop, for example, and they said, "I like what you're doing here," naturally we'd go, "Well, thank you, I appreciate that."
Absolutely, absolutely, you would.
Yeah.
But what's even better is that's your icebreaker. So how crazy is it to not say anything or to not continue? So what brings you here today? And then have, whatever it is, But the nice thing is that if someone walks into your shop, you don't have them walking in with their profile, if you like. What you have is them just turning up. So you're making judgments. Whereas if someone sends a message in return, you can quickly do a cheeky stalk. And you can say, you know what, this guy's into this and this, they do this, they like that. I saw you posted this thing. If they're doing public posts, so comment on it, and so on, and then eventually they might be interested in you. And if they are, then sign up for my list if you're interested in more like this. Or do you see what I mean? It is a wonderfully straightforward way of engaging with people that ultimately you can sell to.
Yeah. And I think one of the issues is, I mean, this is a long game. There's no quick turnaround when you engage people like this on social media, unless you find like the rare person who's just so aggressive and just wants in straight away. But it's very rare. You find people like that. So for the listeners today, what should they be expecting in terms of a return of investment, so to speak? Because that's a term that we've heard quite a lot. What's my return on investment on my social media activity?
Yeah, and this is where people fail a lot, is because they're expecting instant gratification in terms of return on investment. Hang on, I've spent £1,000 this week on adverts. I'm not getting any buys yet. So why is that? Well, it doesn't work like that. You have to continually be there. And I think in terms of in terms of return on investment, what we've got to be thinking is, it may be that your return on investment is epic, but that may be in weeks or even months from now. Because what doesn't come with working online is a more instant sense of trust that we get as human beings when we interact on a person-to-person level. You and I have both done face-to-face sales, Sam, in whatever guise is. And when you meet someone, shake their hand, look them in the eye, and the way they speak to you, your brain, it's in your DNA. You're able to make judgments on what that person's like and whether or not you kind of think they're a bit of a psycho or someone worth maybe working with or something in between. But online, it's hard to work that out. And so, it is important to make sure you're spending a bit more time recognizing you need to build a story behind who you are, build a bit of a narrative, get someone emotionally thinking, do you know what, I like that person. You're always there. You always got great value to add. Return on investment will come, but you've got to be willing to invest typically a vast amount at the beginning in order to get something of a following. People give up after 2, 3, 4 weeks. You need to be going for months and months every day. If you drop off, and I've experimented this, by the way, deliberately to see how it would work. I dropped down to 1 or 2 posts a day. I tried it for like 3 or 4 days. And you just drop off a cliff, and it's amazing how you can have followers. But unless you're right up at some mad levels of traffic, then people aren't going to really remember that you're out there unless you're constantly in their face in the nicest possible way with information they're going to want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned trust there, and it's harder to build trust online as if it would if you were speaking to someone face to face. So
yes.
How can people, what strategies can they use when they're posting, when they're putting their social media marketing strategies together to ensure they're building the trust with their audience?
It's such a relevant question, and I'm a big believer that when it comes to actually closing ultimately a sale, the 2 things you need, which seem a bit weird, it's not closing ability or being hardcore with someone, it is trust and comfort around a relationship with you. Those 2 things, I've sold millions over the years, those 2 things are always in play, especially when you get a decent deal. Unless, as you mentioned earlier, someone's like, I just need to buy this, don't even care about the relationship. Okay, so in order to build trust, what you need to do is show someone who you actually are. Again, it goes to, if you really want to understand sales, you want to understand people. If you want to understand people, you've got to understand psychology. And in order to really get into the depths of that, you've got to understand what people's instincts and urges are like. What is it going to be like if someone sees you for the first time? They make a judgment on you. Plenty of people have said to me, I thought you were a bit of an idiot, Richie, when I first met you. You still are. Or they might say, I thought you were a bit of an idiot, but actually I've come to warm to like you. what you've got to do is put yourself out there, not a regurgitation of other people out there. So, for instance, because I know that a lot of your audience, Sam, are entrepreneurs, this is a real message to them, if I may. If you feel that putting out only posts that are shares or reposts of what Gary Vaynerchuk or Grant Cardone has put out there, what you're doing is you're assisting in the distribution of their message. You're pumping up their value. By association, yes, you're giving yourself a little bit of value. You'll get your likes and your comments going, love this, yeah, this guy's great. But what about you? You've not got anywhere out of it. So authenticity, in the sense of being you, in addition to showing you, even if you feel like this is really embarrassing, this is scary. I've got a client who's like this, and she's just like, I can't do the Facebook Live thing. I just talk too much, and it's really difficult. I said, just try it every day, and now she's great at it. If you put yourself out there, no matter how amazing you are, some people will hate you. Remember that. So on that basis, don't be anyone different. Be you, add great value, and eventually some people will stick. And over time, you'll get really nice core hub of people that really, really buy into your thing. And I think if you look at, there's a book I dipped into recently. I know you're keen on books as well. There's a book called Oversubscribed by Daniel. Brandon, yeah. So it's what's his second name? Daniel Priestley.
Yeah, Priestley. Yeah.
It's so important because one of the points in there is you don't need hundreds of thousands of followers. You need a core, and it might be that you need 100 followers who really love your stuff and buy into you because they've spent time almost getting to know you, and they feel like they know you well. You've never met them, but they're part of your journey. They're always there. They always turn up to your live Q&As if you do it on a Monday, for instance, what I do, but also other things as well. And you just think, you get to that point where these people see you almost as a friend and an ally, and they come to you, they send you messages, and they really lean on you. The trust all comes from being you, one, but secondly, putting yourself out there. And if I may just finish on the things like the Elon Musk quotes or the Sam Walton quotes, whoever, it's fine, stick them out there. But when I do those things, rationalize them. Why are you putting it there? Write a bit of a caption. Don't just rewrite their quote or put their quote on. Why are you writing this quote? What value does it actually have to give? Do you see what I mean? So if you relate it to your world, it makes a difference.
Yeah, that's great advice. That really is. And I actually heard, I think I was listening to one of your Monday Q&A sessions, and you covered that in one of your sessions, actually, add your own value to a quote, which to me, it just highlights that so many people don't do that. And you touched on haters as well there, which is funny enough, because I've got a couple of really avid hater fans.
Good stuff.
If they're listening in, hello, we're doing very well. Thank you for your attention.
That's the funny thing. They will be listening. That's the hilarious thing. They listen more than anyone else because they want to try and find out things that you do wrong. And they're loving you. That's the thing, really.
What's great about it is, I mean, we won't mention names, obviously. That'd be very unprofessional. But these particular haters continually will prod and poke. But I find that everyone else that is benefiting from my services sees straight through it. They're like, who are these idiots? So you really don't have to worry about haters. I wanted to throw that in there because I've had first-hand experience with that, and they still hate me to this day, and I'm very happy for that.
And a lot of them are transient. They're passing by, they see your thing like, oh, that's ridiculous, and then they carry on going. And and all of the people that matter to you are the ones that they're like, who is that guy? And then you just carry on. So it's part of the background. Get used to it. And the thing is, you just got to say, like, who's in control here? Is it my emotion, or is it the practical direction I have in building my business? If my emotion's taking control, well, then when that person does some hating, I'm going to stop the world from spinning and spend an hour wallowing in how that made me feel. And you don't have time for that. And as I mentioned recently on a post, your business shouldn't have to wait for you to pause and have a bit of an emotional breakdown about it because it can't move forward. You need it to, it needs you rather to get on with it and stop being so vulnerable.
Absolutely. So, well, we've discovered now how someone can approach online sales as opposed to face-to-face sales. We've covered how they can build trust with their audience, but there are listeners tuning in today who sell themselves as a brand and they sell their services as themselves as a brand. And there's also people that are setting up companies and selling physical products or digital products as a company. So how should someone's selling approach change when they're approaching either themselves as a brand or a company selling a service or product?
So just to be clear, are you saying how should someone approach a sale if they're doing one or the other?
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
I don't think nowadays that there needs to be too much of a difference between the two. Okay. If I am, let's create a scenario. If I am going to be a fitness coach, in the sense of, I coach people through, lifestyle and fitness and nutrition and feeling good about themselves, or if I'm going to sell nuts and bolts to an automotive manufacturer, then both approaches need a half decent solid product. But what you do need to bear in mind is that because we're talking about digital and being online, you need to be aware that you need to tune in first to the type of people that will buy your product. And once you really know who they are, and this requires you to do a lot of kind of imagining who that person would be, you'll find that you tune into the kind of language, as it's known, they would use. Some people want to hear and see certain things. The former group stereotypically want to see a lot more motivation and pump and energy, whereas the nuts and bolts kind of producers maybe want to see something slightly different about your prowess, your quality, your credentials, the association to other customers as well. All of this still requires you to still be out there regularly, talking about how you're impacting and adding value to people, and every so often peppering what you're talking about with, and here's how we do it, you see, because people will understand very quickly what it is you do, but they get turned off if it's all me. So you need to be value led. And the classic, I would have written the book myself, but he got there first and did a great job in it. Gary Vaynerchuk book, Jab, 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 Right Hook, is the perfect way to look at it is give value, then ask for something. So you must always have, and I feel this is the best way of working in sales, always have a give mentality first. Help people out. So if I'm selling nuts and bolts literally to a car manufacturer, if that's my focus, how can I help them first? Okay, how can I add value there? Do I need to create some kind of event? All right. Do I need to provide some kind of value in that world online, for instance? Do I need to bring everyone together for some kind of seminar to discuss this a bit more? How can I give first before I have them say, do you know what, that was really valuable. What is it you do? Do you know what, that might be of use to us? Because that's the best, most fulfilling, simplistic, although long game way to sell. And you ultimately get happier people who last longer, who are loyal, who spend more money. I've done the quick, ram it down your throat, what's wrong with you, why don't you buy it now kind of selling. Seriously, this is 15 years ago. The first way of selling was hardcore. Call a CEO, cold call, and ram it down their throat and make them feel bad sometimes unless they didn't buy it. And that's a hard world to be in. And it's working kind of in puppet mastery and in manipulation. And it's not the kind of sales that stick. It's not the kind of sales where they're like, do you know what? If you don't mind, I've just got to write about your stuff. I've just got to give you a testimonial. I've told 3 people about you today. It doesn't spread the word. You have to knock on a new door every day for your new piece of business, and that's not fulfilling at all. So hopefully that answers your question. You really need to have that same approach regardless of type of product.
Yeah, and that's great advice. And do you know what? I love that, because that's literally what happens with the guys who are very good at sales and making a killing online. I mean, we was talking previous to this. I was on the phone to Murray Edwards, and for the guys who don't know Murray is a fantastic salesman, and he's helping so many people out, so check him out. But me and him were talking about how I could better my sales, and your name cropped up, and he said he wants to connect with you because of the value you're adding. And it's just, if you are adding value, even other influencers in a market will recommend you to other people.
Yeah,
it's such a great way to do it.
And
I suppose it doesn't even feel like sales, right, when you're doing it that way?
No, well, exactly. And I'd say it's way more stimulating because you get so much more gratification on show. People love it. And here's the thing, here's the detail. If you want to set yourself aside and you want to be in a level of abundance where you achieve great success, what you've got to understand is that the majority of people do the same thing. The majority of the people do an average thing, and that average by default is because most of them are doing it. That's a very low level of sales. With sales, typically comes a reward, because you're getting someone to give you, stereotypically speaking, you're getting someone to give you money. Because money in our world is so compelling, people will chase it directly. Now, if you are chasing money directly as your only reward or outcome in a sale, what you end up doing is cutting corners, being lazy, and focusing on the sale, okay, which is short-termist. And long-term, you don't create this snowball effect where you win more and more. So if you want to be distinctly average, where you will probably do very little, and I'm not going to diss MLM, but what I will say is if you're the kind of person who's on Instagram firing out message after message, because I get them every day, the kind of message every day that says, hi, which is the only interaction we get, and all the rest is buy my stuff, look at me, look at this link. What you end up doing is being the kind of person that sounds like everyone else, who's not willing to invest a little bit in getting to know someone. And you would be stunned the reaction you get, because to actually ask someone even how they're doing before talking about yourself ad nauseum is so much, it's like light years above the average. You wouldn't believe it because it's so obvious, but most people don't do it. So if you want to go make yourself different, all you've got to do is spend a modicum of energy on actually getting to know someone and asking how they are and engaging with them, instead of talking about yourself. And you won't represent the masses who are trough feeding. And this is why you get these stats like, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I've heard recently someone say, you know, in those kind of industries, about 1% of people make more than $10,000 a year. I mean, it's just pointless. What's that for? So just bear that in mind. Give a little and you get a bit more. Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, amazing. There's a really good book on that.
Well, we'll put the link to that book in the show notes. That'll be there for the guys. And one way I described it actually the other day when I was taking that talk was, if you walked into a shop and say, for example, you're selling a pen, because I'm holding a pen, is the first thing I thought of. You wouldn't, as soon as they walked in, you'd go, check out this pen. This pen's nice, it's silver, it's shiny, it's blah, blah. You'd go, hi, how can I help you today? That's the first thing you'd ask someone, right? And I think people forget that with online sales, don't they? They forget it's human.
I think you're right. The thing is, the more evolved version, if you take a mobile phone shop analogy, the more evolved version is that some people, they won't say buy this mobile phone, the first one they can come across, but they will lean towards an iPhone or a Samsung, purely because it's the one they probably know most about because they sell the most. But you've got to step back and go, what does this person want? They might want something completely different. And you know, I think we talked about this the other day because Sam and I hooked up for coffee. And I think when I was buying my wife's car, the guy was like, he saw me come in and was like, right, it's alloys, it's turbos, I can't wait to tell it. And I could see it in his eyes. And when I said buying this for my wife, by the way, just to you know, position you, this is for my wife, I won't be driving it. She genuinely wants low fuel economy and and the space for the pushchair. And it's like his face dropped. But then then he was like, do you know what? I can't talk about the stuff I like talking about. It's got to be what you're after. So sometimes you got to put them.
And you bought the car, so it worked.
I did. I said to you, it was like buying a pair of trousers. I think I was there half an hour. It was like, yeah, that's fine. You know, when it's a nice car, then I'll spend a bit more time. But this is like buying bread. I need it. Have you got any good? Here's the money. That was it.
So, one question that I'm always asked a lot, and I know it's a massive issue when it comes to sales, especially online when someone can't physically see the person they're selling to, is how can they establish who it is they're selling to and what do these people want?
So how can you establish who your customers really are?
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's really difficult to do. If you're going high ticket, it's a good opportunity to have them go through a little bit of a process where maybe it's pre-qualified, but then you get them to engage with you and, for instance, have a Skype call or something like that if you can't meet them. I originally, well, not originally, but several years back, I helped to build a executive search, so kind of a high-level recruitment brand in the business in the city. And we did over £1 million in the first year, because what we did was initially engage with people through LinkedIn and create a call to action and a bit of interest. And essentially, the initial point of interest was that we do this, we really feel this would be of value. I'm in your area. Can we have a coffee? And just basically, as much as possible, trying to get in front of people. So be the reason why they want to meet you, but also suggest that you do. And I was literally doing the same with like some high ticket customers in that business. We were saying, do you know what? I'm actually in Zurich in 2 weeks' time. That's perfect. Why don't we meet for coffee? And they're like, what a great coincidence. Why you come in then? So like, off the phone, right, I'm going to Zurich in 2 weeks then. So do what you need to go meet these people. It was easy when it was just Canary Wharf or something, but you have to go out there and try your best to meet them. So if you can manage to get a small step in your direction, you should maybe be taking the huge leaps and, get yourself out there. But in terms of getting to really know that person, don't come on too strong. Minimal pressure, almost zero pressure is the best thing. Ask someone about their world, get to know them, give them value, be in a position where they lean on you as an point of experience for what you do. So, for instance, it's very easy to be awestruck by people and say, oh, wow, what you're doing is amazing, things like that. But if you're the one who's meant to be the expert in your field, then try and be a little bit more aloof, give them a bit more value, help them out with things, and you'll find you get to know that person quite well, and then if they ask, you can send them links and things like that. But to kind of understand the person, it requires you to shut up a bit and get them to try and talk in whatever guise that might be, by email, by chat, or ideally by meeting face to face. But nothing beats the power of trying to get someone face to face, or at least on the phone, or if you're going to have a phone call, why wouldn't you have a Skype call? Because then you can meet them. That works more for the high ticket products. I recognize if you're selling a volume product, which is $5 subscription or something like that, doesn't mean you don't care about them too much, but try and give them the opportunity to meet you and get in connect with you. And sometimes you've got to put in the hours and just spend time, with chat or whatever it might be on.
So if someone's going for that low, the low ticket, high volume product,
yes,
if they've got to sell 1,500 subscriptions every 8 weeks, there's no way they're going to get in front of that many people. So could the guys that are creating these products go out and just meet 4, 5, 6 people that they feel could be a potential customer, and then once they've built this customer profile, that's going to apply to the masses?
Yeah, you got it, and you can leverage word of mouth, and one way of doing this is to give these people something in order that they maybe share, and so on and so forth. And actually, early on, what I did when I launched 8StepStartup is I brought people onto the course at a very low price in return for them giving a testimonial. So all of their friends are then seeing them, not me, but them, who they trust and validated as a friend, saying, do you know what, you should check this thing out. And that was a great way of perpetuating things. So there's actually another thing that's mentioned in the Oversubscribed book by Daniel Priestley, this idea of using people's experience, using people's networks rather, to kind of pass on your good name, and it's way more powerful than you telling people as much as you can, and as you rightly said, Sam, very scalable as well.
Absolutely. So I'm actually interested to know, Richard, what you've done with your Basics of Sales course. What are you putting in that's helping people with their sales, and why should the listeners be interested in that?
Yeah, really good question. So the Basics of Sales course, instead of 73 lessons, which 8StepStartup had across 8 themes, which was this epic project I built, it's 6 lessons, okay? Each one is between a half hour to an hour long. And I've basically reduced down loads of experience and sales things I've done into these sessions that cover essentials. So it starts, the first lesson is engaging with people and building rapport and how to create a connection. By the way, this is absolutely if you're on the phone, but it's also if you're face to face as well, and in fact you can use most of these elements for email and chat. The fundamentals are there. The second thing is understanding or uncovering or identifying what someone's real need is and how to understand what it is they're actually after, so you can position your solution in the right way to meet them. Then we cover objection handling, which is a big deal for some people, and just handling the way you look at this and the way you turn that. And there's actually a very simple system I put in there, the way you turn that into something that can help you leverage the sale eventually. We also talk about closing, because that's a big deal for some people. It again doesn't have to be. It can be very simple, and there's a way I show it to be very natural. Then we do upselling for those people who want to work with more longer term and get more from their customers. And finally, because I get asked about this all the time, I'm not a life coach. It's not my chosen focus, but there's a section on mindset and attitude as well, which is typically one of the main reasons why you're going to be successful or not, and your kind of state of mind in it. So that's what I cover. And as mentioned earlier, it's designed to be as accessible as possible. So very simple, like you're a 5-year-old, simple stuff. So you can put it into practice right away. And, I've had great success stories already. One guy pops into mind who wrote me about a week after he'd done the course. And he said, I used some of the skills that you put in the course, and I called a meeting with my manager. And I managed to get myself a massive pay rise using your course. So I was like, there you go.
Yeah, very
so
nice.
If you get nothing else, I'm really pleased with that. So it's designed as well as for those who are in sales, for those who maybe are starting a business, to make use of it as well.
No, it sounds incredible, actually. And guys, there's a link to that course in the show notes below, and I would thoroughly recommend checking that out. That's if you want a pay rise from your boss, or you are actually in sales as well. But that's wicked that he's got that result literally a week after doing your course. Incredible stuff. So.
Yeah, thank you. There's a disclaimer there. This will not guarantee pay rise.
Let's get that in there. Okay, Richard. Well, thank you for coming on to the show again today. I mean, last time you come on, I got so much great feedback, and I'm so happy you come on again because, again, you just dropped so many knowledge bombs for people there to use. So thank you for coming on. Now, before we let you go today, have you got any parting words of wisdom for the listeners of the show?
Okay. So if you've got any focus on sales, okay, you need to bear in mind that if you take one thing away from this, that online or offline, you need to be value-led and talking about how you can help people first, rather than bowling in and talk about your product. Introduce yourself, fine, but focus first on giving and helping, with no agenda, or at least no perceived agenda. I'm here purely to help, and let whatever happens does. If you do it enough, you'll get an abundance of sales, and you will enjoy your life a lot more, rather than, oh man, I've got to make these calls where most people reject me. And it's so much more thrilling when you have this approach, because it means that you spend your time doing the right things, which is helping people and getting invoices delivered to your inbox. So it's a wonderful way to do it. Okay, so give first and focus on giving more than anything else, and in return you get your sales.
Love that, love that. Be value-led, people. You heard it there. Richard, thank you very much for coming on today. Where is the best place for people to find you online, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can reach me on my email. I'm happy to take emails from people. I get loads, but I always answer them. So richard@EightStepStartup.com. That's the word 8, not the number. And but yeah, find me on Facebook. Sam and I are connected, but also richardmoore.official is my profile. But probably a better place is Richard Moore fan page, which is my official page as well. And we've said there's the 8stepstartup.com website where you can find out a bit more about me.
Perfect. Richard, thank you so much for coming on today and giving us some of your time. Really appreciate it, mate.
All the best. Thanks so much, Sam. Good luck, everyone.
Okay, guys, and there it is. Richard, thank you very much for coming on, my friend. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. And guys, if you want to hear Richard's last podcast interview with us, it is session 002 of the MyCoda podcast, and that will be in the show notes below, okay? And in that episode, guys, Richard outlines exactly how he started out, how he became an entrepreneur, how he set up his businesses, and pretty much everything that's gone into how he's got to where he is today, okay? So that's a fantastic episode, guys. And again, I know so many people that have got a lot of value from that. So check that one out, guys, session 002. And Richard, if you fancy dropping by again, my friend, please feel free, because I know the listeners get a lot from these interviews with you. Now, guys, if you are thinking of setting up a business, or you've already just started a business but you're not quite sure where to go next, then we have the program for you. This is the High Performance One program. And in this program, we do something a little bit different. We don't just work on the business side of things. Okay, there's so much information out there that you can consume with regards to setting up and running your business. What we really work on, guys, and we really hone down on, is the fact that you need to be there mentally, okay? You need to have the inspiration. You need to be in spirit, as we call it, okay? You need to know exactly why you're doing what you're doing, who you're doing it for. You need to understand, really, really understand the laws of success. We call them the laws of success because they are as real as the air we breathe, these laws. And if you live by this, guys, things come a lot easier to you. Not easy, just a little bit easier, okay? And it all sounds a bit woo-woo and la-la, but it really isn't, okay? When Warren Buffett was asked, what is the best investment someone can make? Warren Buffett is he's the wealthiest investor in the world, worth billions and billions of dollars. His answer was, you need to invest in yourself. The best investment you can make is in yourself. So we really help you do that, guys. We really help you drill down on you. Who are you? Okay, and that's what we need to understand. Once we understand that, guys, and we really help you unleash your potential, okay, we really help you recognize just how powerful you are and how much value you truly have to offer, then we work on the business and we get your business up and running. We get you moving, making money and helping thousands, hundreds of thousands of people with whatever service it is you're providing. And we've already done one seminar, guys. We had huge results off the back of that. So we've got our second seminar dates and they are now live, guys. We have got the 28th, the 30th and the 7th of December, okay? So the 28th and 30th of November and the 7th of December, okay? This will be held in Kent in the UK. And there's limited places on this, guys. We have 10 places available because we really want to spend time with whoever's coming on this and drill down on exactly what they need to do personally. We're not talking about large groups here, guys. We are talking about really focusing on the few that really want to come and make a difference in their lives, because we're here to help you, okay? We're here for the 3%, not the 97%, and that's that simple. So, guys, check those dates out in the show notes below. Book yourself onto the session. If you're unsure, guys, there's a link to one of my talks. We've done the last seminar. We've recorded that, guys, and the talks we've done on that seminar are live there as well. Okay, so you can check out the work we're doing with people, and then from there, jump on that link, guys, and book yourself up for that High Performance One program. And that is it, guys. So thank you so much for joining me today. I will leave you to your day now. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you next time on the MyCoda podcast.